Hey, ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards, thanks for joining us today on Nom Watch Review, where we welcome and talk about, welcome to Nom Watch Review, where we actually talk about your latest drop on shows or things in regards to throwback, celebrating a milestone while eating or drinking our favorite food, snacks, and drinks. I am Alejandro, and today, why we'll be discussing an amazing film called The Lost Boys, released in 1987. I'm going to be munching on some fried rice, teriyaki chicken, as I make sure that no one plays some mental mind games with me, making me believe that's things that it's not. I'm going to introduce you to our fellow guests and enjoyers of the film, possibly or so. Here, I'm going to hit it off to Bill. Say hello, Bill, and what are you having with us today?
This evening, as people often tell me I have no taste, this evening it is true since I got to test positive. So I'm happily just drugged out of my mind on Paxlovid and other whatever else I can find to keep the cough down. So other than that, Coke Zero for the win.
Hey, that's awesome. All right, nothing wrong with that. We hope you get better. So there's nothing wrong with sipping on some Coke. I actually have a little fellow Coca-Cola in here. Shameless plug. But we're going to go on to Rob, my friend. Introduce yourself and what you are having with us, sir.
How's it going, guys? I'm Rob Armatys, also known producer Rob. Done a lot of stuff, Nerdbot, San Diego Comic Con, all that craziness. I just finished off a rousing and nutritious McDonald's, of course, because I was too lazy to cook tonight, and a nice bottle of water because stay hydrated. If you haven't drank enough water, stay hydrated.
Hey, hydrate, don't dehydrate. We respect the arches here on occasion, even though sometimes it can get a little intense. But I do like McDonald's myself. If you guys haven't heard me before, we are discussing The Lost Boys today, a 1987 release. Honestly, big fan about this film. We're gonna actually start off with in regards to how you guys were introduced to the film and where you guys were. Actually, Rob, let's start with you, my friend. How were you introduced to this film, and do you remember where you were about when you
I
watched it?
remember exactly where I was the first time I saw it. The first time I remember seeing it was when I was 5, but my father has had that movie in every portable form of digital format that has ever been released since the dawn of the Betamax and VHS wars. That movie has been a constant Halloween household tradition. It is not Halloween until Lost Boys is played. You cannot get enough of a young Kiefer Sutherland at, let's be real here, his absolute finest. And
The
some
handsome
of
man.
and the Corey and Corey era, this was the prime time of the Coreys. We got the king of the crop, the best of the best. This is the Men in Black for the Coreys. This is their end game.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from here. But at Lost Boys, they had this just magical period of time where it was just beautiful. We all got to enjoy it for forever.
And we'll definitely talk about that more. Excellent, excellent. Bill, tell us how you were introduced to the film and where you were about when you saw it.
It was the summer between my junior and senior years, and so I was working at the movie theater at the time when it dropped,
Oh,
and I remember building it out Thursday night, and so as tradition, build it out so you have to run it, make sure your print's good, and watching it late night. Had some friends come over to the theater. We're hanging out about midnight, eating pizza, and sitting in the aisles, watching it. It's like this shit's awesome, and
ah,
it was so good and had that balance of very much the uh Fright Night, that was the vogue of the era kind of a thing.
hell yeah. That is fantastic. See that what I love about this too is like just starting off introducing the film actually with your experience actually working in the movie theater why it came out. Rob actually coming in and you're living in a household that it was a household name in regards to Halloween. I love it because like for me it's a kind of a mixture of both. I have to like I have to remind, producer Steph as well in regards to like, hey, TNT sponsor me because once again, this film was introduced to me by TNT Monster Vision. Um,
Yes.
that's
Nice.
how it was. And the thing about it was, I was a huge fan of vampires. You name it, anything when it came to just any vampire, it came to. Yes, Interview with the Vampire. Yes, we're gonna go into that. In the future, that's another story. But the point is that it was a vampire household for us in a sense. So we respected that, creature of lore. So I definitely saw it when it came on TNT Monster Vision wise, and for me, it was terrifying at first because I was used to that feeling of moving place to place. Father was in the military, so we are constantly on the move. So I was trying to kind of relating to Michael only in the sense of like there's something new. I have to make friends in a sense. So I was like, oh, that's really relatable. And then I was like, oh, that's actually those are actually vampires. This is so creepier than I expected. So it was more of a slap in the face going, oh, I can kind of like relate to that, but that's kind of like a little bit more at home to me. So it was kind of a fearful thing, but I kind of got obsessed over it because the storyline was fantastic. In fact, which I'll go ahead and I want to actually transcend into that. And Bill, I want to start with you. In regards to the beginning of the storyline, the setup, let's think about the pure situation. Here we are. We already introduced with the carousel, the introduction of the vibe of the film in general. What's your opinion of it? Like, did you think did it start off too fast? Was it a right pace? What did you think?
Well, it sets it up with the tone that, from the trailer, it's kind of like, okay, there's comedy in this sort of thing, and it's more teenagers, it's not adults, kind of a thing. And so they very much, it was a take on the vampire thing, that it wasn't going to be a straight slapstick, because you also had the times of Love at First Bite that had also come out a little while earlier.
Right.
And so it kind of targeted more as, and so getting into it's like, okay, people are really going to die. There's going to be some little jumps in there as well, and then it makes your setting, and so then it goes into the opening of them coming into town and everything. So that's really where it's at.
Yeah, actually, and actually, I agree that the pacing of that right there, in regards to like initially with the carousel setup, to me, it seemed immediately into like you got an introduction of the taste of the characters in a sense. And I believed it was a very, very not the whole classic, hey, this is Bill, this is Frank, this is who they are. It was mostly done by like physical emotion, and it to me, it seemed a little bit more of a nice I don't know. Saying artistic is very generic, but to me, it was a nice little taste of a sense of introducing a film compared to the classic generic. These are the characters in a sense. But anyway, Rob, your opinion as well into the introduction of the pacing of the storyline. What? Let's go ahead and go into like what was your favorite initial parts about it? What are you saying? Positive mindset was it pretty good, steady for you as well?
It's so great. It's so different. We don't get anything like that anymore. It's such a piece of its time, right? Like that creepy music, it starts playing, and then we start seeing that carousel, and immediately you can't help those hairs in the back of your neck. You're like, oh, this ain't gonna end well. And you're just the entire time you're moving and you're constantly like, oh God, what's going around the corner? It's just so what this movie has is it creates the inability to fall asleep. What I mean by that is a good movie is able to know when it's able to bring it up, and then when it can have a lull. But how long can that lull last, and then bring it back up? Lost Boys does the same thing. They know how to. They bring you up right in the beginning. We get a carousel, we get vampires, we get everything, and then okay, let's bring in the family. Let's bring it on. What's going on? Okay, and then we get the comic book store. And all of a sudden, oh, we get to the scene. Then we get to see Moo. We get to see everybody. We get to see, oh, there's conflict. And then we kind of bring it back down. And then we're in the cave. And it just goes on and on like that throughout the movie. And it's just so well done, because most movies just want to beat you over the head with what they have right out of the gate. This movie's like, no. Here's a cocktail. Sit down. Sit a while. We got something to show you.
I like that. Right on. Now, on that point, Rob, of going up and down, I'm going to ricochet over here to you, Bill. I want to, not only talk about, continue to talk about the storyline, but kind of also talk about, some character development as well. Initially, because, you seem really well informed in regards to like character development and in regards to likeness of movies and similarities to it. And to me, I find what's very interesting is that we're given the character David early, right?
Mhm.
And he's an antagonist, right? In a sense. But to me, I'm a little confused because I see him as an antagonist, but not like your clear as day bad guy initially in the beginning. Am I wrong? Or what kind of vibe does David initially give off, like initially on the carousel?
Well, I mean, again, it's the thing is targeted towards, this movie is very much targeted towards high school, young college, right?
Mhm.
That's your audience. And so David is the bad boy, kind of sexy, does what he wants to do. Let's remember what the tagline was for this movie. The tagline was sleep all day, party all night, it's fun to be a vampire. That was the tagline.
I had no idea. I'm like a nerd. This thing. Okay, sorry. Please go. That's fantastic.
I've got the British Quad movie poster version of it. It's just the picture of the boardwalk, and that's the tagline across the top.
I have to see that from you later. I have to.
And
That's
so
great.
that's where the that kind of brings that in, is to it's a be careful what you wish for allegory to a certain extent of what this all is. And so David starts out as this Pied Piper. And if we're thinking about it, Peter Pan, they're the Lost Boys. He's calling them along. Come on, David, jump.
I love the fact that you brought that up. So I had to get some chicken. It was delicious.
Go
But
is it actually chicken? Is it?
well, you know what? Hope we're still good. We're still good.
Okay, good.
Still tastes like chicken. Still tastes like chicken.
Exactly. You know, it's funny. I love that you brought that up, Bill, and Rob as well, because we're talking about a movie that seems to have its ups and downs immediately, and yet I never really made the comparison. And call me dense about him being the Pied Piper or that of like Peter Pan in the sense of them being the Lost Boys, and that plays so well because here I am, a fan of David, and yet I think my natural admiration of his character has put me in that mindset of going, oh, maybe he was a good guy, because I rewatched it lately,
Right.
and there were some things to try to pick out if there was any classic forms of obvious gaslighting, and of course in regards of David, and it seemed like there was, but I digress a little bit, and we'll go a little more into this, so we won't hop around too much. But earlier on, okay, obviously you see him being what we think is the head honcho, right, along with his trio of
Right.
people there. And initially, Apex Predator comes down and he just wipes the map of said security guard and opposing forces a little later in that concept. So you obviously see he's a murdering like character, or has murderous tendencies in a sense. Now we come to an introduction of Michael actually seeing an attraction to him, and let's say I believe her name's Star, correct?
Yep. Star.
Yeah, that group right there, right?
Yeah.
And Bill, you brought an excellent point earlier, saying that this was targeted of young folks, saying of the alternative lifestyle of like young but grungy, and yet of that concept of being dangerous and sexy, and yet it seems that Michael is somewhat falling for that concept, but not necessarily more the lifestyle, and Star is actually helping him out in a sense. But it's funny because once again we come to the term Lost Boys. Michael seems to be lost, and going in there. To me, Rob, tell me your opinion of Michael, being the individual he is. We see that he has interest in these forms that we're going to call the Lost Boys at the moment. Do you think, in regards to a hero's tale, it's a classic start off for him? Or what's your opinion of Michael per se in the beginning?
I think he's starting his hero's journey. He's lost. He's moved so much. He has no home. It's your classic Luke, right? You're talking about classics here. We'll talk about the king of them all, George Lucas. He goes back to the king of the hero's journey. You got a kid who really has no real home. He feels lost. He really doesn't have a quote unquote father figure to look up to. So what does he do? He reaches out and sees what's out there. And what does he find? A group of lawless individuals, people who just baffle him, and he seeks more of it. So it's classic. It's as old as time. It makes complete sense, but at the same time, what that actor brings in terms of how he approaches it is what is so fascinating about David.
See, I agree. I would agree with you there in that character development. I mean, it's very classic. You are saying, the classic situation. You have a heel that coming up or a problem case that needs to be solved, and it could be a little bit self-doubt, internal or an external. But I do see that classic case scenario. He, acknowledges there, and he has that goal of wanting it. Before I come up to you, Bill, I want to go ahead and read the comments real quick here inside here, so we didn't forget our chat.
Yeah.
We're gonna go say hello. What's up to Q? We'd love to see you here, my friend.
Up,
Good
Q?
to see you as usual. Along here as well, Q says I was around 10 years old when the movie came out. Let's see here. We got Still Deuce says hi, producer Steph, getting some love towards producer Steph. We're going into as well. Let's see here. Q Ball says Q says it was Alex Winter's first role, which is interesting because I made a joke by watching the film, because I was like, what? I love the fact that Alex Winter was like a low-key silent badass throughout this film.
Yeah.
And yet we all
Right.
knew there was a tiny little Bill inside him. So it's always made it. I was like, this is great.
There's always a little bit.
Now, on that note, in regards to being the character and being Michael and so forth as well, I want to actually also dab in and kind of introduce to Sam. Bill, I want to actually say to you, Sam, we know we have Michael here coming in. By all means, please, I want your opinion about Michael as well, as his classic, let's say, the protagonist in this case scenario. Sam, what's your opinion about his what we think, what we kind of know a little later, nerdy little feisty brother?
Well, I mean, you need to have that foil that's trying to hold him back, right? So you've got Pied Piper trying to bring him out. And actually, I'll pause for a moment and kind of go, what I liked about this movie as well is it's kind of a cautionary tale, but be careful what you wish for. But the story isn't a wish fulfillment story, because it's not like he's setting out wanting powers and wanting all of this and he's grasping at it. It's he does. You spoke about being an army brat and moving around a lot, and here's like he wants identity, a crew to hang with, that he can be part of this, this group, and that's what he's seeking. It's not so much being able to hang upside down like a bat, and so having the brother is like that great scene of him popping in and goes like, "Man, you're a blood-sucking vampire. Just wait till I tell mom." He kind of helps deliver the punchlines when he needs to, but he's still scared. But again, he brings the Frog Brothers in, and he does the rest of the stuff that needs to happen along the way. So he moves the story along once Michael's been taken out and kind of attached to the other guys. Now it has to his POV.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God. I like you brought that up. And I definitely want to transition to the next thing coming into for a question for you, Rob. The Frog Brothers, man. You introduced the Frog Brothers to the comic book shop. I know both of you gentlemen are healthy nerds. And they make the reference into the classic Batman comic, I believe it is. Please correct me when I'm wrong, or if I'm wrong on this. Rob, what do you think about the Frog Hunters? Frog Brothers, the vampire hunters, the comic book nerds? What's your opinion on them, my friend?
Somebody out there was studying John Hughes. Somebody was looking at what John Hughes was looking at, and someone was reading what that man was reading at. Because that's how it comes back. It's just classic quip, and it's so quick-witted. And I want to point out, because I've gotten into arguments with people, no, it is Frog Brothers. Everyone always forgets about them. No, there were two. Even though it was a terrible movie, Lost Boys 2 was a thing, and we have to live in a world where that exists.
We'll agree to acknowledge that later.
Well, Speed 2 exists. It doesn't mean that we need to ever revisit that horrible monstrosity again. It's kind of like, fine, Caravan of Courage was fine, but then there was the sequel, and we don't need to go back to Endor again with the Ewoks.
That's one.
Absolutely.
That's a whole bunch of might be cute fluff, but not the kind we want to necessarily enjoy.
But it's so well done. It's written by, you can tell someone did their homework. Somebody did it, because it comes back with all it feeds back on screen is love and care. It screams somebody did their homework and really wanted to nail this scene to really set the tone for who the Frog Brothers are, and they just killed it. I remember as a kid, that was the scene that killed it for me. I was like, oh, I'm in. Oh, these guys are in it? Oh, I want to see what these guys are doing for the rest of the movie. Let's go.
And what's funny too about that too, on your enthusiasm for them, they have that unusual likable hero quality about them, because you have the original punks that David interacted with initially. David and his crew the Lost Boys interacted with on the carousel, that they are grabbing that comic that's there as they're joking around, they steal it. And what threw me off being a kid was seeing these two nerdy characters that are not the biggest run after them. They're like, give us our comics. And to me, I was like, those guys are muscly, they're big, and you're going after them. And to me, I was kind of like, those are guys that I would want to be a ride or die with, because they seem like they'd be willing to punch a guy even twice their size to help me out. Now, on that note, we transition over to Bill. Talking about the Frog Brothers, we now know they're in a transition. The fact they introduce Sam to the comic book, talk about vampires. So it's in our face. We know the vampires are hinted about. We see that's what's going on. How, in your opinion, is there a classic, in regards to, let's say, the transition to, let's say, the family dinner? Because I know we're going to hop back a little back and forth, because I want to also talk about other things, of course. But the Frog Brothers and how they test their people. What's your opinion on the family dinner in general? Oh,
Sorry,
Yep.
okay.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. This is one of those that it has the good balance between its comedy and its darkness. It doesn't go too slapstick. It doesn't go too heavy in the horror. When it does, it's over the top blood and stuff. So it's not really. It's like even when the vampires are getting staked, it's more like this kind of gray black goo kind of stuff. It's not really the same thing. But so when you get the comedy, like it's like, oh man, it's garlic, man. But no, it's just a little bit. It's a lot of garlic. It's all at once, and so you can tell what they're doing through the steps, and they're trying to kind of make it that they're testing him, but he knows what they're doing. Because like they know what they're doing, he knows what they're doing, and the mom's like, I'm trying to have a nice dinner party, and just get through the whole thing. But it's done with with a touch that works without it being too campy, and you don't lose the audience and making it self-parody.
Heck yes. Yeah, that to me, like you're 100%. And Rob, I want your opinion on this, my friend, too, as well. It's funny you should say that because I do think it's a healthy balance itself because you're looking at situations in which not only the garlic references, but the fact that they're like, oh, the holy water dumping in on them, and they're truly trying to figure out because at this time being, the concept of, and even in the 80s, because I would say that even though we had the history of Nosferatu coming into the general comic books of the concept of vampires and who they were, vampire lore was existing, but at the same time, it didn't really go beyond what we actually have. Because, like now, in my opinion, we have concepts of the underworld, concepts of Blade universe, concepts of Marvel, Wetworks. I mean, there's so many different versions of vampires, even going to Twilight, and I'll say Twilight, kill me later. But the point is that there's so many different universes that we work off in regards to what has classic vampire lore and newer vampire lore that's been accepted or looked throughout the times of history. But now looking at what's going on, the classic holy water and garlic was, yeah, they don't like it. And seeing it applied, you're right, was very comical, and yet at the same time, it kind of worked with the whole dark vibe of what was going on because they were ready to stake the hell out of him once they found out that if that was the case, that per se. But I digress. Rob, your opinion on the family dinner of them trying to figure out if he was a vampire himself.
That scene is why this movie is the blueprint for the modern vampire genre. You have two eras, really. If you really start thinking about it, you have before Lost Boys, you've got your Nosferatus, you got your Bram Stoker's Draculas, you got your various other little sprinklings here and there. And then you have after Lost Boys, where it really starts becoming, no, we can make this cool. They're not just some secluded count in the middle of a castle. No, they're your neighbors. They can be the hoodlum teenagers that are spray painting your trash can one moment. You come outside and now they've got dinner. And this just shows it because, like Bill touched on, it's just so perfectly timed. Like, you have these serious moments, and then you're just dying life. He's like, bro, what? So much garlic, gosh.
Well, one thing that comes into a because like Bram Stoker's Dracula actually comes later, but that was more when they were doing a callback to the more classic era. But what always felt strange when you're dealing with a modern, modern characters in a modern setting in a modern city, everyone, it always feels strange. We all know what vampires are. We know what zombies are. That the characters don't have an intrinsic thing. If something weird shows up that's kind of like this, that they wouldn't know certain things about them. Before that point, to your point, before Lost Boys, most of those films, the characters had to find the old tome that had the secrets with how to kill them and the spikes and the, holly, whatever, and cut their heads off, whatever it's going to be. Same thing with zombies. If you see a film or a series after this point, if someone shows up with, and around this a zombie pops up, well, probably the first thing they're going to try and do is shoot it in the head. Let's see what that does, because they've seen enough of the movies. Let's give it a try. And at this point, the Frog Brothers, they knew all the tricks to try. Let's see what's actually real. And it was nice to you could get in with these people, because if they were diehard comic geeks but had no idea what the foibles were, it's going to feel weird. Because everything that they're doing is trying to make these kids, the Frog Brothers, Michael, his brother, that family, it wants to be the people sitting in the audience are those people.
And it sets it up so well because we all see each other, because that's what everyone visualizes. everyone as a kid remembers visualizing like, yeah, man, what's the garlic? Wait,
Yeah.
the garlic didn't work, dude. Wait, dude, the holy water's got, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Garlic and the holy, damn, what the hell's going on with this movie? Nothing you told me makes sense anymore.
See, oh God, see, I love this because as we're discussing this, you're talking about the current vampire lore that we have and the previous vampire lore that we had available to us at that time before it came out. Funny thing is, when I actually saw this on TNT Monster Vision, I actually saw Interview with the Vampire first. So my introduction to vampire lore was once an individual was bitten, you were sick and you're going to stay sick and you're going to borderline die until you actually bit the host that bit you and drank their blood. And to me, that was how you became a vampire. If you got bit, you died of a disease. So when I watched, because we're going to actually I want to actually transfer into this next point here, and I know this is around the same time, before a little bit after, in which we're going to transition over to Michael joining them into the scene, motorcycle scene, chasing him all the way into the caverns, and now we have David and his lost boys and Star, and now they're in sitting here with a notorious rice that can turn into maggots, and then they have the shaman that turned into worms. Now, what I found interesting there, because of course we know what happens a little later on, was wanting to know what David's angle was per se, because we see that Michael is interested in Star, obviously, and Bill, you brought it up into the point of wanting to feel connected in and having a sense of purpose. Rob, you mentioned in the fact that it seemed that the classic "This is what I want," the hero's journey, in the sense which we still go into that sense, but we have an antagonist that obviously sees a connection, in my opinion, of Michael finding interest in Star, but it still seems like he likes Michael. And in his introduction of like, here, have some rice. I'm going to actually go to you, Rob, on this. Am I wrong? Did it seem like, was there clear purpose to you in that opinion? Even your opinion of the scene, of the whole scene in regards to in the cave while they're eating Chinese food.
Let's just start off with shout out to that shoot team, that camera crew, being able to do that hot flip. That is just one of the coolest freaking editing effects of all time to this day. Just, what? Don't like noodles? Just, what's wrong? It's just perfect. And then, yes, I do think what was so different about this movie, leading up to any other vampire movie, this one, there was that aura, right? Like, Michael's talking, and then there's a very like homoerotic aura around it, where you're just like, does no, yeah, no, and we're all just
little
like
tension.
Yeah, no, and we're all just, and no one's uncomfortable by it though. We're all just sitting there like, oh my God, give me more of this. I can't have enough. Like, to this day, you can't help but just be like, oh my God, just give me more of this entire scene. Because it's just, from beginning to end, Kiefer Sutherland, what he knows how to do, like his dad, he knows how to command a room. He knows how to be a room general. He knows how to go, hey, everyone, I'm the attention. I'm in charge. And it shows it. It's the way everyone carries themselves around set, around him, how they're sitting, how she sits, and she's near him, but she's terrified of him. She knows she liked him in the beginning, but she knows what he's capable of. Michael going in there, it's a complete opposite. We see it. He's like, oh yeah, no. It's just a bunch of guys. It's all good. While everyone else is like, no, we know what's going on. We know it's real. Yep. And it's just, I can go on. But Bill, what do you think, man?
Well, actually, I'm going to roll it back just a moment and kind of, we got to touch, you talked about the sexuality in the film and the scene that made, when you talk about Lost Boys, really, it's about the carnival and it's about Saxophone Boy. Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Sweaty, oil-chested, that's Tina Turner's saxophone player.
He will always be sexy.
I was just, the first time you see Star, when you see him on the thing, everyone in the theater goes by for that whole scene. It's kind of like, that's hot. And because, I mean, think about it. 40 years later, you still know exactly.
I tweeted that today.
Yeah, you said saxophone man. I literally drew that man out, added in the color and details immediately from memory.
So sorry to interrupt, Bill. I'm sorry. Go on, buddy. Go ahead.
No. But it's like that shows the sort of impressions when these characters make on the screen. That's one that you know that scene instantly, and you remember the music, you remember the setting. But that's the first time I ever really realized about Santa Cruz Boardwalk is from Lost Boys. Right now, I'm sure it's not set in Santa Cruz. I can't remember what the name of the town was that they gave it, but that was it. And that whole sort of idyllic, kind of setting out there on the waterfront, where again at night the carnival becomes alive, and you go into it. In there, I'm sure we could find some other deep analogs to the sequence in Pinocchio, going into the carnival, and what happens when he goes into that.
Yeah,
look, I get nice and deep and profound right now on drugs. Okay, cool. Let's go with that. But again, because if you think about it, when Pinocchio goes out and joins, it's like they get the punk ears and everything else. That's what he's wanting to go do, is become that part of that nightlife.
That's
and
right.
That's when it hits. And the other things is like the characters are so distinct. It's not four vampires in different sorts of tuxedos. It's his Heritage Auctions just a couple months ago on the block was the 4 heroes jackets for the vampires. They all went up, all the originals, and they were beautiful. And again, Alex's is the best jacket and the thing.
That's so colorful, man. Everything,
all
the bands,
the things and all the blings, and each one was such an identity, and it told you about these people without having to do bullshit backstory narratives. Like it tells you about what was important to them, probably when they came into the gang, and all these sorts of things. And so I could prattle on, but again, the tone and pacing is good, such that whether you watched it back when it released in '87 or when you show it to someone now, it holds up. I mean, if the effects get a little bit a little dated, but not so much that it's anything less than you might see on CW or what have you. And also, which also touches to the mute, because with saxophone player in the scene, this is a movie where at the time a movie score and a movie soundtrack, two different creatures, and studios at the time were putting in so many bullshit pop music tracks off of the radio, and it would be jarring. It was just kind of like whatever the execs could get shoved in to try and plug their favorite bands at the moment. But this one, it kind of worked, that balance between the scores and the pop songs that were in there, and so it didn't really take anything away. And so it's still, you can play it today and it rolls. Sorry,
it's great. It's great.
to this day, that soundtrack is actually, that whole soundtrack is actually really solid. Like it legitimately is like a precious movie soundtrack gem.
It's
I still have the vinyl for that one.
I agree. It's great, and I do believe at the time being, both of you mentioned it, the time and era. This was the time to be the fact, because like the history of vampires that we knew were your classic babysitter. Oh, somebody's invading, or the concept of Bram Stoker, a little bit afterwards, but the concept of everything was not necessarily associated with rock and roll, sex, and vampires. It was implied, but actually seeing on screen was like, oh god, this is badass. Bill, you could not be any more correct in regards to, because I've obviously liked the film because of this, but I haven't really emphasized my love of this. But each and every one of these characters, whether Paul, Marco, you talk about Star, they're all introduced by visual effects. Everything's done. There's no like history. You see the missing posters of where they were at the time being maybe a vague indication of their age. But it's fascinating. And even with I can't what is the tiny one's name? The tiny vampire.
Oh my god, I'm totally blanking.
Well, just for sake of time, Tiny, even the interaction of of Tiny One hopping on the back of the motorcycle with the larger brother type. It was just very, very, you could tell there was a family aura about them. And once again, the group of misfits, the Lost Boys, and even being there. So, it was fascinating that, the character types of like, especially Alex Winter, his dang jacket. I could still, because right when you said it, I can imagine, I already think of the bright yellow/red going down the chest with the brads and the ribbons, and the fact that it was leather painted. It was just, there was a lot to it.
To this day, it's just so gorgeous.
Exactly. And the cool thing about it is like you have these vampires, obviously they can fly, but they choose the concept of riding motorcycles, and here they are being badass with these motorcycles, in my opinion. So it makes the bad guy, once again, as you said, Bill, very likable. There's something very badass about these people. Now, in the transitions, before we digest too much, is you have, the concept of them. Michael's obviously has his want and need of being in the group. And that's the point. He already goes ahead and he decides to fall in eventually to go ahead and take a sip of blood. Now, according to this lore that we then find out, is now he's infected. Now he is almost one of them until he has his first kill. Now, we talked about the Frog Brothers and their introduction of telling this whole lore to Sam himself. We understand Sam is scared of this concept and the fact that we see their family getting pulled in because their mother wants the want of a possible relationship, possible father figure coming in. So now we see all these senses of. It's funny, Bill, you blew my mind with the Peter Pan reference. I don't know why I didn't say this, and Rob, you brought this up twice yourself too, in your arguments and your points. I just never really thought about this. Now the connection I'm thinking about of Michael, Sam, and their need of a father figure, and then you're looking at the Lost Boys, and essentially, as you're thinking about, they need a mother figure. Essentially, when we find out now, at the point we see the Frog Brothers at the dinner table, and everything looks like he's clear and free. Right, we see indications of the Hellhound, what's going on, and now we understand that Michael is possibly one of them. He doesn't really understand this fully, but Sam's trying to get to him, and things are going all over the place, from floating bodies in the air and trying to prevent, the Hellhound implication of the mother trying to not to get ran away herself, off the boardwalk later on. And I'm fast forwarding a little of this on purpose here. Now we finally get to the point where we see, and you know what, I can't forget this because I have to backpedal here. I have to brag about this all day long. And guys, I need your opinion on this because this is a great scene, in my opinion. I turned 36 on July 23rd, and one of my presents from Steph was she took me to the filming location, and I know there's two technical locations here in Santa Clarita for the Lost Boys Bridge, and I nerded the hell out over this bridge here. Bill, I have to get your opinion on this because I love hearing you talk about these things. When it comes to the bridge scene itself, I understand that we backpedal it. Michael already drank the drink of blood, and we can see he's transitioning into possibility here. Your opinion of the whole vibe of the train scene, of this bridge scene. I have to get your opinion on this, sir.
Well, no, I just love that. What's interesting about this one is most vampire. It's become more common in recent decades, but up to that point, touching on Rob's comment about there's like the before times and the after times truths, right? They're giving him the choice. He doesn't have to join them. He could probably hold on and then scramble back up on the tracks. Maybe they'll kill him, maybe they wouldn't. But in the end, it's his choice, and they're calling to him. So it's that whole siren song thing, right? Especially when you get the fog and the down into the mists, and it's a leap of faith. And so if he's going to go, he's going to go. And then in the end, he jumps down. And again, it was there's certain things about how that could be said about how the effects worked, and does it still kind of ride as well. But for me, I still love it because you're talking about someone who's being tempted to come across to the dark side. Let go, and it'll be fine. Because isn't that what they all what the bad side of the tracks kids tell you in high school? It's like, come on, it'll be fine. Try it.
Come over, the water's just fine.
Yeah, come on in. And he lets go. And then he wakes up in bed with a hangover.
Yeah,
it's like he's being affected by sunlight. He's like, oh man, too loud, dude. Same thing. What teenagers can relate to.
That's man. Once again, yeah, I like it. Rob, your opinion of the train bridge scene, my friend.
Oh my God, train bridge scene. What I love about it is the fact that on paper, right, your most glaring thing you think of in the scene that's going to capture the audience's imagination is, oh my God, they're hanging these people from underneath a train track off of a bridge. This is madness. That's not even the interesting part. That's honestly the least interesting part in that entire scene is 5 grown men hanging from the underside of a bridge. That whole scene is held together with such good dialogue and such good tempo, and everyone they're speaking in this bated breath, and it's in this way that it's always whatever they're saying is on an exhale, so it causes us to have to lean in further because we want to hear it, because we feel like this is something intimate. We're getting into that moment, and you just can't help but feel yourself leaning towards the screen, and it's so fabulous. It's so great. It's the birthplace of Michael. It's his birthing spot. It's where he as a human, his life before dies, and he awakes and starts his new life. It's a great metaphor for just adolescence in general. This is Michael's time as a boy is now ended. This is now Michael the man. And what is Michael the man going to do now?
Adult development. I see.
Exactly.
Definitely. Now, see, on that point, and I'm going to go ahead and do a kind of a hop skip here, so we can go into the next thing here. So, coming into the train scene, we talked about the cave scene, and the reason why I'm talking about this is the I have a question here that I still think is left debatable. Maybe it's because I just watched the film again too, because I love just refreshing movies, and this is a film that I still enjoy. That being said, we make notes that David urges Michael to drink the blood and join. Then we have the hints of both Marco, Paul, David as they hang on the bridge, as both of you have mentioned previously. Rumbling going, mist below, looks like it's a hopeless drop of death, and they're like, "Join us. You're one of us. Just trust yourself and join us." So now he's making this transition, right? Now, fast forward, we see the family test to see if the previous guy with his hellhound is actually, mom's love interest is actually a vampire. We see that it's not at the time being, or we believe that it's not. And then we find out both at the same time that technically we'll touch that base a little later. I want to hop back to Michael's interaction with Star before we find out the reveal towards the end. The Star states that, hey, I'm actually really into you. Michael's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why are you really into me? What happened? And then Star finally admits that, oh, you're supposed to be my first kill. And that most makes my transition. David wants me to kill you. But in reality, I'm a little confused, because it seems to me that all this being said and done, and maybe because we're dealing with a movie that there was a lot of implications, a lot of stories being given by physical movements and visuals, and less actual dialogue in regards to explanation of individuals. I still think it's left unknown, in my opinion. I don't know if I would have trust Star necessarily. I think and honestly, I would in a sense, but she says that, hey, you were supposed to be my first kill, and he was like, oh, really? She says, no, but I really like you. And my thing is that did David really want Star to kill him? Did David really into that Star? Because it still seemed that David had really interest of Michael wanting to be in the group, and it seemed to me it was more than just a meal. Am I wrong, Bill? What do you? I'm going to start with Bill first, real quick, and then Rob, I want to hop to you, my friend. But what do you think, Bill?
As far as on the whole piece of it, or
yeah, in regards to your opinion, because I still think there's some uncertainty whether, because initially in the film it said that Star is really into Michael, right? And Michael is just supposed to be a piece of meat, and that's supposed to be that's what she said, right? We didn't really hear David's piece, because it then transitioned immediately to them transcending on the house. So my question is, do you think there's a still left unknown there, or do you think that what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that she was sent as bait, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was sent as to try and hold him, and to try and be the lure to move in.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she actually feels for him, I think she does become that over time, but it's more she's feeling bad. Initially, she's feeling bad about what she's doing, because she can't control. Once they've been turned, she can't control what she's doing. She's being controlled by David, so she has no particularly free will. So she knows she's fucking him over. And what he's gonna make that final choice. So she feels an empathy there and a responsibility to the whole thing. So she's trying to kind of, cushion the fall.
Mm-hmm.
But whether she's actually into him, I think that's more of something that kind of comes along over time. I didn't really get the read, especially with the chemistry between the two, whether it's actors or whether it was a directorial decision. I never really felt like, oh my God, she's just gonna burst at the seams. It's not like a Twilighty type of thing.
True. I like that. That's a great point. Rob,
him hot for her. Yes.
Sorry, bud.
Her hot for him.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I was getting at. I was trying to. Okay, good. Then I'm not a little crazy. I saw that interaction. I get that. Excellent. Rob, your opinion on the whether, because once again, a question at hand is, of course, in that interactive scene, he was like, "Hey, are you telling me I was bait?" And she's like, "No, I really love you." And my question is this: it didn't, and she keeps saying that David said you're my first kill. My question is, what do you believe that energy is still there? What's your opinion, my friend?
I think yes, and here's why. David does not care about people. He does not. People are just human sacks of meat and blood for him to command at his will. What he craves is control and power. When he sees When he sees Michael with Star, he sees that moment of like, someone's threatening my power. Someone's threatening my control. What the hell are you doing? That's why he's like, what? Just rice? Just noodles? What's wrong? What's the problem? He wants to control the situation. Her telling Michael that does not surprise me one bit because that completely fits within David's character. It completely fits into it. It fits into no, we're going to make you one of the family, bud. Come on in. You are one of the boys. Sorry, get a chance. Like immediately, that would be his thing. They're just like, yeah, go ahead and just, yeah, he's going to be your first one. Because he doesn't care.
That's an excellent point. His digs were, I agree with you. His digs were manipulative in a sense, but quiet from the back, and
Exactly.
controlling in a sense. I see.
Come here, join our family. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna give you everything you've wanted in your life.
Now, my question is this, Rob. On that same note, and Bill, feel free to chime in on this as well. Do you think that as controlling as David was of the Lost Boys, of this point of being the position he is in this family, this developing family, so to speak, do you think that he would rather have control of David under his wing, or do you think the death of David would be more beneficial to him?
Control of David. Every member he has is more power.
I mean, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. What David is the death of Michael would be more beneficial, or the control of Michael? That's what I meant to say. I apologize.
The control of Michael is more beneficial. What him telling her to do that was a test of Michael, because at the end of the day, David wins. She kills him. Okay, cool. He's dead. There's no more threats to my throne. I'm good. I'm still on top. She doesn't. Okay. Now I get someone who's not only further committed, now he has a romantic interest in order to stay with us. So now he's even further deep down the rabbit hole. Oh, cool. I've got him even further tighter grip around his neck. Awesome. Either way, he wins. So it really didn't matter to him. It was just a matter of, okay, which one is going to be the outcome? But either way, David's just sitting there going, I'm good. I get whatever I want either way.
I see. Okay, that's okay. I get that. I like that. Bill, question here coming into, because we're coming here to make sure we get towards the end of this here. Now, my question is this: call me dense. The reason why I love you, Bill. The reason why I enjoy this film so much is I didn't expect Papa Vampire to be who he was. To me, the dinner scene threw me off. To me, the dinner scene, because from what I knew, that's what I knew of vampire lore. Your opinion to the reveal of who the boss vampire was?
No, I thought it was good. Because again, it's hard for me to say if a contemporary viewer comes to the movie and watches it, will they kind of like, oh, this is clear. But at the time, it was a neat switch. The one who we didn't expect, we thought it was, David was really leading this whole thing and it's all moving along. But then not, and also to that last point about is David bringing Michael in?
Yes.
Is it by his instruction? What are his orders? Is David doing it autonomously, or is he instructed to bring Michael in because he has an interest in the mom? And that's sort of an aspect to it. And that's where, David likes to think of himself as the leader of the gang, but what he bucks at is he's not really. He's just another lapdog. He just happens to have some sub lapdogs, and that chafes his own kind of level. He doesn't like being reminded of that.
Which is why Michael being there is such a threat to him, because he sees him there and he's like, whoa. No, nobody. You're beneath me. Why the hell are you on my, like Bill said, why are you on my level? What is going on here?
Like what's going? Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent point, because you have that reveal of who ultimate. I love making reference Papa Vampire, and I will say, to me, and I know we're getting all the time here because I want to talk about a few other things here. I think there's a slight symbol of of, I'm going to say it, and people are like, don't bring politics in here, is of capitalism and socialism, an example of what could actually be at fault. I think, you're looking at David and his lost boys of bandits going out there and taking what they want to take, ultimately, and doing what they want to do. And you're like, oh, this is ours. This is our lifestyle. We're good. We're going here. And here we have mom's love interest being the boss of the shop, on a very prominent boardwalk, making money, living in an area in a pretty prominent, decent size of California that could go south, could be making a lot of money or be on the far end of the ports. Because in the beginning of the film, you also see a lot of this Santa Monica Pier-ish vibe or Venice Beach vibe of of the alternatives, of sex, rock, and love, and just all this stuff that's out there. And yet in the end, the bad guy was the guy with the suit and the glasses the whole damn time. So to me, I thought that was and Bill, you mentioned the cautionary tale, be careful what you wish for kind of deal.
Right.
And I very believe that it almost was not necessarily a bait and switch, but a very, very talented little a jab, in my opinion. I just thought in that ending, I don't know if you guys had any opinions on that per se, but
couldn't agree more.
Well, excellent. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt my friend here. Now, on that note, normally we talk about popcorn buckets, and Rob, I want you to please go ahead and insert your little opinion on here. Previously, Bill, I noticed you had a popcorn bucket rating of 4 out of 5, and I have one of 4 out of 5 as well. My question to you is it after us discussing this film, has there anything that we said that could sway your rating up or down? And if so, why? And if not, it's okay.
Sorry, I just had a system issue.
Oh, it's okay, buddy. What I'll do is it's okay. I know where.
Yeah, go ahead and go to Rob first, then I'll get back.
No, not a problem. Now, Rob, we normally do popcorn buckets here. So, quick question, quickly, what would your initial intake, being stars out of 5 popcorn buckets, be of the film?
My initial is going to be a 4, but after this conversation, I think I'd be willing to move it up to like a 4.5 because now we got half buckets.
Now, question.
So I got to take leverage on that half bucket.
What is moving up your half bucket? What would your half bucket go up to, and why? If you don't mind me up in a quick little backup for that reasoning.
It's just so much impact, right? Like, we're talking about, again, that the bad guy was never the outsiders. It was the yuppie who ran the freaking electronics store. Like, come on now. It's so ahead of its time. Even with it being in the 80s, it's so ahead of its time, and it had certain things pegged, and it was awesome, and it was great, and it's really set a tone for your Twilights to get made, for your Jennifer's Bodies to get made, for your Fright Nights to get made. All these subsequent films don't come about without this movie. And because of its impact, I'm like, nah, that you get an extra bucket for that. Extra half a bucket for that one.
Heck yeah.
Dusk Before Dawn as well. Those sorts of things.
Yep.
It's doing it by the whole thing. By the time you get into the somewhat self-aware real world setting with a bit of cheek along the way, I think you're exactly right. That this kind of is the lead into that. And I can't remember if it's Fright Night or this, but I think between the two of them, that brings in this era.
Honestly, yeah, between the two, because Fright Night, on one hand, right? You get a little bit more darker.
Yeah, that was still darker with some comedy. This is a little bit more of the balance.
Exactly.
Now, question real quick here. While we're on time here, I don't mean to interrupt Bill and Rob, but Bill, on that same note, being the rating of 4 out of 5 on the film and the history this film has, would it be consistently a 4 out of 5 for you in here, or and the reasoning, anything that you change your mind, or if so, that's okay.
For me personally, as we've been chatting about it, I'll go 4.5, or at least 4 and a pack of Milk Duds.
Hey, Milk Duds are delicious. Okay, so that's a serious
Milk Duds,
racer.
you put it in the box of popcorn, and you go up, and then you.
Oh,
I like that.
I
like that. Excellent. Well, we are running out of little time today here, guys. So before I go ahead and do some outros here, can you tell us about where people can reach you on your social media, or just in general how they can keep to update with you guys? Rob, we'll start off with you.
For sure. Find me producer_Rob on Instagram, producer Rob on Twitter, no space. I post dank memes and terrible selfies, according to my girlfriend. So if you're into that stuff, give me a follow.
Excellent. Bill, where can we find you, sir? Where can we keep updated with you?
For me, you can find me writing on nerdbot.com, and you could find me mostly everywhere as Bill RW and the number 3.
Fantastic. And before we do outro here, you can see me, guys, or find me on Daily Shenanigans on IAMCOWIE. It's I am Cowie. That's Instagram, or my trash talking at Crimson Cowie on Twitter. And then on Facebook, Alejandro Cowie in general. Just a daily post of shenanigans and just good stuff. Now, in regards to that, just go ahead and make sure, once again, Bill, Rob, thank you guys for being on the show today. Always have a great time actually talking to film with you guys. I love nerding out. It's big nerd films. Love it. Now, guys, please remember, Nom Watch Review and Basic Bitches are now on podcast form. You can listen to them the next day on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or where you can get your own podcast. Please subscribe to your YouTube and to our YouTube and Twitch. All our platforms are at Nom Talk Network. Tune into our next show, which is going to be, let me scroll down here. We have on the 28th, which is going to be, let's see here. Perfect. So our host is going to be Stephanie. We're going to be talking about George of the Jungle, celebrating its 25th, 25 years from July 16th. So that's going to be exciting. I'm a big Brendan Fraser fan, so I'm really excited for that.
Fraser lover.
Well, guys, once again, both of you guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody for tuning in with us today. And remember, please come by next time. Join us. We'd love to have you guys. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Join us.
Cheers.